is November 16th, 2021, and I hereby declare the Kansas County Board of Commissioners is now in session. Will you all please stand as we say the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone. Looks like we have several people here today, and we got a full agenda. Before we proceed with some of the other agenda items, we have some housekeeping to do. First is the paying the bills, which we do every meeting. I have a motion from Commissioner Nissen to approve the bills, and a second from Commissioner Gardner. Any questions or comments about the bills? If not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. Also, we have the minutes that you received in your packets from November 2nd of this year. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes from November 2nd, unless there's any questions or comments.
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Commissioner Anderson, a second by
I'll second that.
Commissioner Endek. No questions or comments? I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Now, at this point, I would like to move into and open the public hearing. And this public hearing is concerned about the optional sales tax extension. And before I ask Mr. Odens to speak, I just want to give a little bit of protocol or what's going to take place during this public hearing. I'm going to have an update request from Mr. Odens about the optional sales tax and the possible resolution. Also, if there's some public speakers here, we'll go into more detail about the procedures to speak, but the public is open to come today for this meeting, and it's been advertised in the media, and we talked about it at our last board meeting. And if there's some speakers, I'll tell them at that time how to proceed in their public speaking. Also, after that, I will ask for any written comments if anybody received any from anybody. During the public hearing, we are not going to make any resolutions or vote on anything as a board other than to close the public hearing, and I will request a motion at the end of that. At this point, and also if anybody comes to speak on the public hearing, speaking is supposed to be specifically in reference to the optional sales tax. And at this point, I would like to call on Public Works Director, Mr. Odens. Good morning.
Morning, Chair, members of the board. So yes, this is a request from the Public Works Department to extend the local option sales tax for through 2028. So there's three basic things you need to do: an extension or a sales tax. One, you need a public hearing, which we're doing today. Number two, you need a list of projects. And the third thing, you need an end date. So, and we would do that by a resolution at the conclusion of the meeting if you so desire. So with that, I'm going to turn it to a PowerPoint that we've got I put together to kind of explain the entire process of our thought process. So if you could refer yourself to the screen. Basically what I want to start with, and the fundamental reason why we are looking for a sales tax, and you'll see this further in the slides, is because we need sustainable funding if you want sustainable construction. There's always been the motto of if you know what you've got for revenue, you can put together a good plan that's sustainable for even bidders, not just for our department in the maintenance and construction, but even the bidding environment. If they know you're going to have a good construction program, they know what they can gear up for in your county or in your state. So what are we asking for? We're asking for 7 years, 11 projects, 40 miles, and 2 bridges, which amounts to $22 million is what our estimate is, a little over $3 million a year. And the counties have the ability to do the sales tax by resolution. That authority was given to was given to the counties and local jurisdictions, specifically more to the counties. It was given to by state statute. The state legislature always struggles, as you know, with funding transportation, and so they delegated that authority down to the county boards in this case. And if you look in the fourth paragraph, it's kind of hard to read, but the fourth paragraph's the authority is given, and I'll just read it. Additional projects may be considered, but for the county sales tax must be presented at a public meeting, included in a resolution passed by the county board of commissioners. So that is the authority that's been granted to us by the state of Minnesota. So then somebody might ask, why are we doing it now? I mean, why are we doing it now? Because the old one goes through next year, but fortunate for Kansas County, we've been, I think we're on track by the second quarter to have our funding for the 4 projects that we had initially set up to do. So if you want to extend it, you start the process now so that you don't have a gap in collection. So anyway, so that's the kind of heart of the resolution. Then I want to refer you to, and you've seen this graph before, but you've got lines and you've got bar graphs and you've got things on here. But if you look, there's like a lower blue line that goes across. That's where we'd like to be. And if you look, you have orange bars. This is our revenue sources that we have, that we depend on to do our construction program. The lower ones with the red and the blue, the dark blue, that's our state aid, levy, and our fixed revenue sources. Then you get to where you see the orange. That's the sales tax we're currently in. And as you can see, there's a definite drop if we don't do the light blue. The light blue represents the sales tax that we're asking for. So that amounts to right short, or right, just probably right at $3 million a year in additional revenue. And then the next one I always like to show, because there's always the discussion of federal funds, sales tax, bonding money, LRIP, state aid, wheelage tax. I always like to show this because we have 650 miles of road that we maintain. 450 of those are paved. The 450 get the most attention because they're paved, number one, and they have a funding source. So if you look on the left, we have 190 miles of federal roads, and that arrow only goes down to the 190 miles. It doesn't address bridges, or it does bridges in some cases, but it doesn't address the gravel roads and a lot of the paved roads. Because some of the talk right now is the signed infrastructure bill and federal money coming. Well, in this district alone, we only get 4.7 million. I don't know what we're gonna get in the future. Nobody knows. It might go to the state of Minnesota for the large part and maybe not get delegated down to local governments. And so that's a huge concern for us, but with all that being said, it only really applies to a small fraction of our roadway system.
Mr. Chair, may I?
Yeah, please proceed.
Sorry to interrupt you, Bill.
No, that's fine.
Can you give me an example of some of those roads in Kansas County that would qualify for the federal dollars?
Well, like County Road 8, County Road 2, County Road.
Single digit?
Yeah, correct, yes. So like 8 south of Spicer, 2 on the east side of the county.
4, 5.
For the larger volume roads.
Thank you.
Yep. So on that graph, we have a dashed line because it's a competitive thing. And that's a good point to have as well, because it's competitive and it also requires matching funds. So in other words, if federal money comes down, it doesn't mean we get it. It means you compete for it. And in our case, in this district, there's 19 agencies competing for the same dollar. We've been very fortunate to get it, but because we have plans ready. Not everybody has that, foresight, and that's where the county board's been very supportive of keeping plans ready so we can get other outside money. And then I'll quickly go through the rest, but then we have our $4 million of state aid that we have, that's pretty fixed. And then we have state bonding, which is not fixed. That's one that this is our third go around to get a grade separation built as a result of the Wilmer Y. It seems to be, it's a needed project. But once again, bonding's been a struggle to get. And then we have the local option sales tax, or the levy, the local option sales tax, and the wheelage tax. So I just wanted to just remind you that we do go after other money. We don't just use sales tax. We go after all those 5, 6 revenue sources. Plus, we've done a in-depth look at our current system, in terms of jurisdictional realignment. In the tune of 50 miles, we're working with townships to take over. So the sales tax that we're asking for this time, what's our main focus? I think our overall guiding focus is preservation. We have 650 miles of road, 450 that's paved. We need to preserve it. But we've also doing economic support. So what do we mean by that? Well, that's like in the map we have, and maybe we should just flip to the map, Jeremy. If you look in the lower left, we have the County Road 1 bridge. That would be one that is right by a beet piler. It's a restricted bridge. It needs replacement. To remove that restriction, we have County Road 7 left of there, just a little north, by the big dairies. They haul hundreds of milk trucks a week, and that road just needs rebuilt. No shoulders, 1-to-1 in slopes, very narrow, dangerous. Then we have feeder routes from like Sunburg South. If you go up on the east side of the county, the Tri-County Road, County Road 10, coming in on 2, that's a major. County Road 6 up by Painesville, it might not seem to be a feeder route, but everybody on 55 and 23 and any detour that MnDOT uses up in that area uses R6. So that's a very critical route. And then we have some muni gaps, primarily in this case, County Road 5 across the old airport is in the city of Wilmer, is a major route. And now with the Wilmer Y and the expansion of the industrial park and the new development that's coming in, that's going to be needed in a couple of years. And then Wilmer Avenue and the 7th Street going all the way up to the College Road and all the way up to King Lake. Pretty major commuter route coming into town. So that was kind of our guide as we put this together. So with that, I just want to go flip one more. And so our request, once again, is for to extend the local option sales tax to complete for 7 years to complete these projects. 11 projects, 40 miles, and 2 bridges are $22 million. With that, I'll be open for questions.
Mr. Chair.
Please proceed, Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Chair, I got a couple quick questions. One is this local option sales tax, that's only for transportation. We can't use it for like parks or anything else,
correct,
right?
right,
Okay,
right.
yep, that's one thing I wanted clarified for me. And then I had another one, I can't think of it right now.
Okay.
But if I think of it, I'll ask.
Sure, because we're going to have an opportunity to discuss this again after we close the public hearing too with Mr. Odens.
Yep.
All right. So I want to thank you at this point, and I will call upon anybody who's in the audience that was here who wishes to speak. It looks like there's, please proceed. And may I just kind of clarify that, would you please give your name and your address, and this is for the legal record. And normally we say, expecting maybe more people, we'll try to keep it under 3 minutes, but you do have plenty of time. Please proceed.
Right. Good morning. Aaron Backman, Executive Director of the EDC. Mr. Chair, members of the County Commission, I fully support the extension of the sales tax. I think one of the most important things that a county can do is have a strong road network and make that investment. Industry, agriculture, commuters all depend on those roads. The first go-around that you had approved for the 2018 to 2021 period, 50% of those dollars went to County Road 40 on a couple of projects. And it doesn't take that long. It doesn't take that long to get to $14 million. So I think there's certainly other areas of the county that merit and need that investment. On a typical workday, we've got 13,000 people that commute into Wilmer to work. And they depend on those roads, whether it's CR5, CR41, et cetera. Many people come in from the north, northeast, east. So I would certainly support the extension of this. There are many solid projects here. I want to commend the county for making the investments, and it's been ongoing. Mel has been thinking ahead continuously. I look at the improvements that you did on CR5 for the turn lanes for unique opportunities. First week of October, the developer picked up permits for Phase 3, Phase 4. That's 144 units that are under construction right now. And you look at other projects. He alluded to the logistics project. And I can tell you just yesterday, the developer signed the early access agreement. So we have a signed purchase agreement, a signed development agreement. We're in pretty good shape for that $26 million project to go ahead. And that will change the traffic patterns on CR5. So I fully support this.
Okay, at this point, Mr. Backman, would you please just hold on for a second? Any questions or comments to clarify with Mr. Backman from the board? Okay, I hear none, but I want to thank you for your interest in our infrastructure and optional sales tax. Thank you very much for coming forward and speaking.
Yep,
Appreciate
thank
it. Anybody else has anything they want to say at this point? Okay, no other speakers available at this.
3 times.
3 times. Any other speakers available?
Mr. Chair, I just want to make sure we didn't have any written comments.
Yep, I was going to ask that after this. Yes, thank you. And for the third time, any other individual in this room who's present would like to speak? If not, okay. I will move on then at this point to address any written comments and any of the commissioners, Mr. Klein.
Mr. Chair, I have not received any written comments.
Okay, we have no written comments. So I would be happy to entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Also move.
A motion by Commissioner Gardner
I'll second.
and a second by Commissioner Anderson. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of closing the meeting? I'll say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Now the public hearing is closed, and I would like to call on Mr. Odens again, and would you talk to us about the possible resolution?
So thanks, Mr. Chair, members of the board. So we've done the first thing to have the public hearing. We have a list of projects in your packet attached to the resolution. So it would be my request to you to introduce and request the chair and the auditor to sign the resolution number 2021-43.
Okay. We have a request for a motion. Anybody wish to make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Commissioner Nissen. Do I have a second?
I'll second
A
that.
second by Commissioner Anderson. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Please proceed,
I
Mr.
would just like to say this. Normally, I do not like taxes. I like to keep them low. However, with this here local option sales tax, it does allow us to keep our property taxes lower, and I think that kind of helps the farmers. If we wanted to do these kind of projects, I believe our tax levy would be increased quite significantly. I'm not sure exactly how much. And I also have heard or have been informed that over half or approximately 50%, maybe a little more, of this local option sales tax money comes from people who live outside our county and our community, and but they do a lot of business and they do use our roads. So it helps us offset those costs by having people that do drive on the roads pay for that use, so.
Okay, Commissioner Emdek.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with Commissioner Anderson, and it's not fun even discussing the raising of taxes. But, for year after year after year, the Association of Minnesota Counties has had their number one priority at the Minnesota Legislature to achieve sustainable funding for the state of Minnesota. And year after year after year, it doesn't happen. And so in 2008, this state statute that allows for counties to impose local option sales tax was put into place. And when we go down to the legislature, we talk to the committees or talk to individual representatives about increasing funding. The very first question we get from those folks is, have you passed the local option sales tax? And the second question is, have you passed the wheelage tax? And they don't really even want to talk to you if you haven't done that. So this is a tool that was given to us largely because we haven't gotten the necessary funding from the state of Minnesota for that even keeps up with inflation.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Nissen.
Yeah, I'm also averse to raising taxes. I was part of the Tea Party movement back when. But this makes a lot more sense than raising the levy to do the maintenance that we actually need to do. Is County Road 7 used to be Highway 104. It was turned back from the state and a number of years ago, and those things need to be maintained. And Mel mentioned the dairy farms south of Highway 12, but there's a couple of big ones north of Highway and a new one coming up as well. And the grain and the beets and everything that travel on those roads, it's just imperative that we maintain these roads. And here's 2 quarters. If you spend $100 in Wilmer on a taxable item, it costs you 50 cents to maintain the roads that got you here in the first place. So I believe strongly that some taxes are better than others. This one makes a whole lot of sense because we're not just hitting our property taxes, we're getting help from the people that come here to, and I would encourage them to continue to come. It's not an expensive thing. 50 cents on $100 is not a killer for any budget.
Thank you, Commissioner Nissen. And also, I think, isn't there a cap on that too? So if it's more than that, it'd even be less.
And I'm not sure
In
about,
reference to
major farm equipment, and there may be some things
Like
that
a
are
car or
exempt,
something like this, I
But
believe.
like I said, it's a tax, it's 50 cents on $100 of taxable purchases, and not everything is taxable. Clothing and shoes are not taxable. Food is not taxable.
Right.
So, anyway, that's.
Thank you, well presented. Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mel, would you address the cost of doing nothing as opposed to, because we tend to hear from people who don't generally like taxes to say, well, just, fix it as it's needed. Well, isn't that really what we're doing at this point in time?
So, for years, the old school way of doing asset management was either gut feeling, worst first, or political. Just kind of go around and, should we fix this road or not fix this road? Okay. Well, if you wait for a road, and I have a graph for this, but I don't have it with me, but there's different age cycles in a road. The first 10 to 15 years, it's pretty good. And the line is relatively flat. The next third of a life, it starts to steepen a little bit. Once it gets below that third, and it drops. Okay, so if you can keep good roads above that first line and reinvest in preservation like I'm asking you to do here today, you can do 4 times the work for the same dollar that you would if you let it get down to here. So the old school way of doing asset management or pavement management was the ones that you see when you drive around are down here, right? That's the ones you see when it's like, boy, this road's rough, right? I mean, or this isn't a very good road anymore, maybe we should consider doing that one. Well, by the time we got to here, for every dollar, you're spending $4 to do the same thing you could have done up here. And so this tool allows us to keep good roads up here. And quite honestly, when I showed you the graph of our revenue sources, that's what we're trying to do. We don't ever want to get them down here. And we have 50 miles that are still down here. And that's our concern.
Thank you.
It certainly sounds, with all the presentations and comments, that this is good long-range planning, and it's going to save money, and it's very transparent of where the dollars are going to go. And as been said several times here, nobody likes taxes, but sometimes we have to have different kinds of taxes, and this seems very reasonable to proceed this way. We have any other comments at this point? And otherwise, I will call for the vote. No other comments? All in favor of supporting Resolution 2021-43, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. It passed unanimously. Well, thank you for your excellent presentation, Mr. Odens, and being on top of this, and your good planning for the future of Candioi County. I'm very proud of that. How Candioi County does look forward to the future and the kind of actions we take here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I'll move on to the next agenda item, and I'd like to call on Hilbert, County Feedlot Officer, and you have a work plan for approval.
Yes.
Okay.
I'd like to present the county feedlot work plan for 2022 and 2023 and request approval of it. This is a plan that the MPCA requires all county feedlot officers or all delegated programs to do right now it's every 2 years. They've discussed an every 4-year plan, but right now it's stated as every 2 years. And it lists all the, basically how we intend to run the program, the feedlot program in the county, as far as any inspections, registrations, compliance, assistance, basically everything we do to run the program. And we also list in there the number of feedlots and what type of feedlots we intend to inspect for that 2-year period. And then at the end, there is minimum program requirements that we must agree to as well in order to maintain funding for the feedlot program. I'll note on the registration or the inspection strategy where I list the number of feedlots, that number is just kind of a baseline number. I do intend to go over that. Basically, really the only feedlots that we don't intend to, or I don't intend to inspect would be feedlots not required to register, except in the case of at the end of the 4-year registration period, if they haven't responded to registration requests, I may schedule a visit out there. And the other feedlots I would not inspect would be feedlots that are under 300 animal units, but are total confinement. Those types of situations, there's very little for me to view on a farm of that like that. So at this point, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Commissioners, any questions or comments?
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Endeck.
Probably more of a clarification. On the larger CAFOs, over 999 animal units, do you do the inspections there, or is that?
No, the state would be inspecting those as well as ones that cross an EPA threshold for a large CAFO, such as like I believe it's 700 or more mature dairy cattle. And there is, I think I don't recall the number for finishing swine, but there's a number for finishing swine where you would cross a number, I think it's 2,500 finishing swine, where you wouldn't meet that 1,000 animal units quite yet. So those types of situations, the state also does those as well.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Reading through your 22-page of information you gave us, very well done and good detail and well presented. And it was interesting to look at the Appendix B, the different counties of how many feedlots they deal with and the comparisons. At this point, I would entertain a motion to, you also, I believe you want an approval of this work plan?
Yeah, the only thing different this year is there's no signature required. by the
Okay,
state.
but just a board approval, and we need a motion for that. Okay. A
I
motion,
would so move, Mr.
a
Chair.
motion by Commissioner Indak
I'll second
and
that.
a second by Commissioner Anderson. Any further questions or comments? If not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. And thank you very much. Good to see you again.
Thanks, Russ.
And next on our agenda, I'd like to call on Mr. Gear. Mr. Gear, our Environmental Service Director.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning.
And I have one, excuse me, wetland application to bring before you this morning. As a part of administering the Wetland Conservation Act, an application that is proposing a replacement plan comes before the Board of Commissioners for approval. So that's kind of the basis or the reason why we're here this morning. And it is to place fill on 3 lake lots on Big Candy that you have been seeing the site plan of in your packet.
For the public, do we want to put that on
I
top?
don't,
No?
I don't believe so, but
Okay.
I'll keep going. The staff the review of an application like this is completed by the Technical Evaluation Panel. That's myself, a Bowser representative, a DNR representative, and the Soil and Water Conservation District. So we got together with the property owners and came up with this replacement plan that does approximately fill 3,500 square feet of wetland, and then they would be purchasing wetland credits for 7,000 square feet of wetland banking credits. So, and that's at that 2-to-1 ratio. So with that information, staff would be recommending approval of the wetland replacement plan as presented.
Commissioner Gardner.
I'll wait for a motion before I ask my question.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion.
I would move on that, Mr. Chair.
A motion to accept this wetlands request by Commissioner Emdek, and the chair will second that motion. Now I'll open it for questions and comments. Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Gary, the background information states that this is for fill that has already been placed. Was permitting required to put that fill in place?
That is this permit in front of us today. So they did get the cart before the horse. This site had received approval for a partial amount of this in 2014 with a previous landowner, and I believe there was some discussions held at the sale of the property that more could be completed, and that was what was told to the Technical Evaluation Panel. So they went ahead and did that work, and then a concern came into our office that this fill had been placed. So then we got involved in, wait a minute, we need to back up, stop the work, which they did. They've been working with the Technical Evaluation Panel to get it done correctly now. So that's where we're at.
Well, and that's the next question that I wanted to ask, and the reason I'm asking, I'm familiar with this. In fact, one of the adjoining property owners is here today and has expressed some concern as well. So when this first part of it was done by the previous owner, my understanding is there was granite placed underneath and then the fill after that. Do we know that that happened for the rest of this?
I'm sorry, what happened?
That that granite was placed first and then the fill, or is it just all clay?
I believe it's all clay from what we've been told from the current property owners, but that wouldn't change this request or this application, whether there was some granite or that would be looked at as fill that would bring us to today's application, whether it's granite or clay.
So we don't know if the fill was added correctly.
No, there's not a distinction between granite or clay. The fill has been placed correctly, yes. The request is to put fill in the wetland. That's all.
Additional fill.
Yes.
Okay. And right now, the level of that lot is level to the adjoining property owner to the west. So they're asking to have this approved so they can place more fill above that?
No, no more fill is being requested at this time. This is just what has been placed. So the fill is staying, and in actuality, there's a culvert that enters this property on the east side under the road that drains some farmland across the road. That area, they're taking the fill out of from the road right-of-way towards, well, to the shore impact zone, which is 37.5 feet back from the lake, and creating a 15 by 150 foot stormwater retention kind of staging area to capture the runoff that's coming at this lot and divert it, hold it, and then divert it directly to the lake.
And is that pond going to keep the stormwater from running then to the west? Is it going to be contained all on that
That's
property?
the intent, correct.
Okay. And you mentioned that they put the cart before the horse. It sounds like a case of begging forgiveness rather than asking permission and going through the process.
It does sound like that. I guess all I can say at this point is that sometimes we get in these situations and it's just really a difficult project to work through. These property owners have been very accommodating and listening to the technical evaluation committee's comments and input, and we're taking out 1,500 square feet of the fill that they've already placed and developing the stormwater retention, and again, ultimately purchasing 7,000 square feet of wetland credits too.
So the adjoining property owners have some assurance that this is going to be done properly and not impact their property?
I would say yes.
All right. I'm loath to reward someone for having not gone through the process. That's
And
an issue that I have in this case.
I understand.
Commissioner Deck.
Can you describe the technical evaluation panel of, am I using the right words there?
Yes.
And who currently serves on there besides yourself?
It would be myself and then Linda Ponting, who's the Board of Soil and Water Resources representative. She works out of St. Cloud office, but covers the southwestern region of Minnesota. Gary Johansson happens to be the DNR representative. He's the area hydrologist. Normally it's Ethan Jensen for Candioi County, but the very southeastern corner of Candioi County actually comes into his region. So he works out of the Hutchinson office, and then Ryan Peterson out of the Candioi County Soil and Water Conservation District. So those four members make up the technical evaluation panel, and that's who's been meeting and discussing and basically negotiating this application request.
Okay, Commissioner Deck, proceed.
As a follow-up, I was thinking it was 3, but it's 5.
It is, for example, the DNR representative is only on it when it's a shoreland project, so it's something within 1,000 feet, then it's,
And did I thought I heard you say somebody from Bowser earlier too, but,
just Linda is who I was referencing.
okay, she's
Linda
from
Ponting.
Bowser.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's from Bowser.
I thought you mentioned she was from DNR or
Okay.
Soil and
I
Water.
maybe
She's from
misspoke,
Bowser.
but she's
Thank
from
you.
Bowser, yep.
Mr. Aguirre, if I'm understanding right, what you're saying, it is possible, even if from the very get-go, you could end up where it is right now.
Correct, yes. So for example, had the fill not happened, we could be standing here today with the exact same request.
With the same kind of fill and so forth.
With allowing the fill to happen. This is the process we have to step through the Wetland Conservation Act. And a wetland replacement plan is one of the permit applications that can be requested. I understand Commissioner Gardner's concern over the angst when the work already happened, but that's why a third of it is coming back out and the retention plan is proposed. That something like that likely would have happened, in any sense, whether this request was done first or not.
Anybody else?
I'm gonna-
Commissioner Deck.
So a third of it coming out is really sort of mitigation for something that wouldn't have been in the plan had it been started from scratch. So in essence, it's a correction.
Correct.
Okay.
There was the technical evaluation panel's attempt to make a correction or negotiate.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Any other questions? Commissioner, comments? Commissioner Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I think Commissioner Imdick just provided me with the clarification that I was looking for, that what was going to happen is not going to happen, and there is a proper correction that's being made to this property to mitigate especially the stormwater concern. Did I hear that correctly?
I believe so.
Okay. Thank you.
It's my feeling that the Board of Commissioners frowns on this type of procedures, that somebody goes ahead and does something without having it all checked out, and also involving your neighbors. And I think it's really important, and even though right now at this point it looks like this is the only option we have, because it meets the criteria and everything, that we have to possibly proceed with this, and that we encourage people in the future to think about your neighbors, to involve them in the process, and to get the right of way from the very beginning. Commissioner Anderson.
Yeah, my question or my concern would be, with that fill that's being put in there, that was put in there, is that pushing water onto the neighbors? So, now theirs is at a higher level. Will it affect neighbors? Will they be underwater, inundated, or has it been looked at?
That I wouldn't say has been looked at specifically. By trying to create the stormwater retention area on the east side of the property, and with holding ponds and then directly discharging ultimately to the lake, certainly the majority of the water coming at this lot would be handled through that system. Whether there's some grade that's higher than this neighboring lot to the west, whether it would run onto that lot or to the lake, I don't dare estimate. So there may be some impact associated with that, but it's hard to gauge the larger rain event scenario.
I see.
Okay. Commissioner Gardner.
Just a clarification from Mr. Kleindl, if we may. Anything that they want to build on that lot in the future that would have to come through Planning Commission?
Not the planning commission, it goes to the building permit process. Building doesn't always go to planning and zoning.
Okay, I didn't know the answer to that question. That's why I asked. Thank you.
No further comments or discussion at this point? I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Thank you for
Thank you,
your
Mr.
presentation, and thank you for your concern and interest in government.
I do by chance have Eric Van Dyken's 11 o'clock item.
Yes. Okay, you're going to
He's
move
not
it.
able to be with us today, and I'm dropping this on you, but I could present that now if you choose, or I can wait.
Mr. Oates, is that okay if he?
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Okay, you bet. Please proceed.
All right.
Mr. Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and this is the agenda item from the Planning Commission meeting last week, and it was November 8th, and they had one agenda item to present before you, and that was the application of Eric Conan, and he was requesting a winery business, retail table, restaurant, entertainment in a CI commercial industrial district. This is just off of State Highway 23 in Green Lake Township. The township was recommending approval. The Planning Commission heard the application. Very kind of straightforward request from what I understand, and the Planning Commission had a good discussion about it and asked some questions, ultimately landed with making a recommendation to approve the request, as you've seen in your board packet, with the two conditions for signage and on-site parking. And with that, the Planning Commission unanimously recommended that the board approve the request.
Mr. Chair, I would move on the application citing the findings and conditions.
Motion by Commissioner Emdek to approve. Second. And second by Commissioner Nissen. Any questions or comments? Would you just share for the public where this is actually going to be?
Sure, it is, well, I don't have a good aerial photo. It is, or maybe you want to just address it?
So if you know where Block's Auction Barn is, just off of Highway 23, just west of Spicer.
Okay.
It's in that wedge, excuse me, in that wedge between County Road 27 and Highway 23.
Yes.
Just just east of the Canula Power Co-op complex there.
Correct. Yep. Business Tone.
Whatever
Business-
that's
Business
called.
Center, I think is what
Yeah,
it's called.
yep.
And right, basically across County Road 27 from the Harbor Church. So if you're trying to get a picture.
Might not drink wine there till a year from next summer.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? If not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Gear.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Now I would like to move forward with Mr. Odens. You want me to try sign those now? Okay. No, just one? Okay.
You want to do me?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're supposed to give me an
Mr.
elbow.
Chair, let's, if I may, let's do Mr. Odens. That'll be very quick. Take a 5-minute break because I don't know how long.
Oh, see, okay. I was reading his mind.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Excuse me.
You're always budging, Mel.
I'm going to take a short pause here quickly while I sign this.
You're talking the Y?
10:45.
Oh,
Final payment.
There we go. Thank you. Okay. Now we are going to jump
Okay.
way ahead to Mr. Owens, and will you please proceed?
Yeah. Thanks, Chair, members of the board. What the item I've got is a final payment and project acceptance on a bridge project we did on County Road 16, just north of Lake Lillian, northwest of Lake Lillian. There is a map in your packet that shows the project. But the project bids were received in April of this year. And Hool Excavation of Little Falls, Minnesota was the contractor, was the low bidder, and they began work in July, completed it in August. They did a very good job, no complaints. And so it's the staff recommendation to accept the project and authorize final payment to Hool Excavation in the amount of $1,587.71.
I would entertain a motion.
Also
A
move.
motion by Commissioner Gardner and a second by Commissioner Anderson. Any questions or comments about the project or paying the bill? If not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Thank you. Do you want to go next? He's also got one other one, don't you? As long as you're on, you might get rid of the last one.
All right, so I would,
Okay.
maybe the overhead, Larry?
Okay, and next, we're jumping around the agenda. I'm not sure.
Which
It's
one you on?
really a good habit to get to, but Wilmer Y.
We're on land
right?
leases.
Yes. So we're on the 11:15 a.m. agenda item of Wilmer Y. surplus land leases.
So you have to adjust your
Yeah,
paper?
all right.
Okay.
So when we did the Wilmer Y, we had 5 parcels of land that we basically, through the master partnership agreement, this was the way it was going to end up. We got these 5 parcels of land in exchange for land that we bought for the project. Okay, so we ended up with about 140 acres. And so what we did last February, we leased it out for a 3-year term. Well, there was 2 of the parcels that, number one, the 84-acre parcel that you see here, we were going to sell last fall. Well, we're also thinking that the Wilmer Y would be done. We also thought condemnation would be done. And we also thought that, we would be in a position to where we would be able to know the drainage, know the whole area. Well, we're not there. So I'm coming to you today is with the first parcel, the 84-acre parcel. Our recommendation is to lease it out for sure next year, and maybe even for 2 years to get it in step with the other parcels that we were able to lease out. Or the other option we could do is lease it for 1 year and sell it next year. So our recommendation is for sure 1 year of leasing. And if everything is done with the Wilmer Y, then we may come back and recommend we can sell it at any time anyway. Or we could lease it for 2 years and then sell it and wait till all the condemnation's done, the Wilmer Y is done, the drainage is done, and then sell it. So what we do know is we don't want to sell it next month. Does that make sense? We want to lease it for at least 1 year. So I'll open that up for discussion.
Okay, so you're suggesting that we do lease this out, and really the bottom line is 1 year or 2 years.
Right.
And instead of you coming back here, I would think 2 years would be a good route to go. Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would offer a motion to recommend the leasing of the 2 additional parcels for a 2-year term.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Gardner for a 2-year term lease. Do I have a second?
I'll second
A
it.
second by Commissioner Endek. Any further questions or comments? If not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously.
Okay, now we have the one more. It's the 4th tract. I'm sorry, Larry. This one was, this is a tract that's just north of Highway 12, and just east of the Township Road. It's in the vicinity of the elevator. This was one that we actually leased, and we had to cancel the lease because we didn't have access. They never gave us access to the parcel last year. So to get it in step with the other leases, it's our recommendation to do this a 2-year lease, which would end on December 31 of 2023. So in either case, on both of these, we would, if that's the desire, we would bring it back to the county board on December 14th for final approval of the lease terms. So the opening of the bids, or if you want to call it quotes. So my recommendation on this one is to lease for 2 years to get it in line with the other ones.
Okay, Commissioners, what are your wishes? Administrator Kleindl.
The only thing I would recommend is that you have a big sticky note, and you remember that in 2 years, we're going to sell these. Our goal is to try to get rid of the surplus property, so I'll buy you a thing of sticky notes and make sure that you have that, because I don't want to be holding on to your properties.
Well, we've got 6 acres we're going to keep forever because we're going to build the grade separation. But the other 134 acres we could dispose of.
Okay, what are your wishes, Commissioners?
I would, again, move to that 2-year term.
A motion by Commissioner Gardner for a 2-year term.
I'll second that.
And a second by Commissioner Nissen. Any questions or comments? I hear none. I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Pass unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I'd like to call on Administrator Kleindl.
Mr. Chair.
Take a break.
Oh, yeah. We've got a question. We are going to take a break in 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
I hereby call the Candioi County Board of Commissioners back in session. At this point, I'd like to call on Administrator Mr. Kleindahl.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, members of the public who are watching. We had a park meeting, board meeting, manager meeting a couple weeks ago, and we do that yearly. What we do is we review the year that we just completed for camping and talked about how things were going. For the most part, we had a very good year. Campsites were full, and reported very positive things. We did make a couple adjustments, recommendations for the board here today, and we'll do the policy pieces first, and we'll ask that after I get done, we take them all as one, okay, unless you'd like to break them up. But one of the things that we found out is we did have some campsites that they were subleasing, that lease out, rent a campsite for a season, and then they were taking their camper and leasing it out. And of course, they're making profit and taking money away from other people. And again, it's meant for the public to use county parks. The whole mission of county parks are for Kennewick County citizens and citizens around us to use the parks to have that opportunity to have that experience in a campground. So anyway, one of the things that we want to add is under the camping reservations and under the campings, to make sure it's in there, that subleasing of campsites is not allowed, and only those registered for the campsites are allowed to camp unless managers are notified and approval is given. So that's under both of those sites. So we understand that if your mom and dad have a seasonal campsite and for a weekend they're going to be gone, and so they're telling their son or daughter that if you want to stay at our campsite for the weekend, you can do that. We're not opposed to that. We just want to know that your son or daughter is using your campsite. We are opposed, though, if you are taking your campsite, you're there for a week, and then you're leasing it out to someone else for more money to someone else that we don't know. So we want to change that. So that's one of our recommendations. The second thing is a clarification regarding, and it's mainly for seasonal, but for dogs. The question is, was the dog policy, was it for when the dog was actually physically there per day? And it was always intended for it to be as a seasonal. If you book your campsite and you mark down that you have a pet, we want the intention to be clear that dog fees are $1 per dog per day based on reservations days of the campsite. If you reserve a site for 90 days, you would need to pay $90 for the dog at that time. It's not, if you make a 90-day reservation and you're there 45 days with a dog, you'll pay $45. If you mark down that you have a dog, you're paying for that day. One of the things we believe, we're awful inexpensive for our pet fee. A lot of them are between $5 and more dollars. But we didn't change the fee on that this year, but we do want to give that notice. So, Mr. Chair, those are two policy questions I would like to have you consider for additions.
Commissioner Emdek.
Mr. Chair, unless Larry has any objections to this, I don't see why it wouldn't be maybe a little cleaner to do a motion on the policy and then the rates separately.
Yes.
That's what I'm asking.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, okay, that's,
Because
I
I want the verbiage first
Okay.
Okay,
Because
on the policy, and
initially
then we'll do the fees. And they're all part of one, but
I thought.
I am separated.
Okay, I thought you said you wish they were all together, but
Yep.
that's good.
I will move that we adopt those two changes in our policies.
A motion by Commissioner Nissen. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
A second by Commissioner Anderson. Any further discussion or comments? Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Larry, I appreciate the clarification regarding subletting. We happen to camp out at Games Lake, and periodically if we can't be out there, sometimes my kids and grandkids are, and that sort of thing. And that's still allowed. The clarification is just talk to the park managers and let them know.
Yep, and don't charge your son or daughter more than you're paying for the campsite.
If you think I'm getting, no, never mind. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I did have a question about the dollar fee for a dog. And what is the rationale that a dog should be, it should be charged if you have a dog?
Because there's the cleanup and there's liabilities that come with it.
Okay.
There's hassles with it because people complain about dogs or noise, and so it's a reasonable ask. You go to a hotel or any place else, there's a fees for your
Okay,
pet.
so you're saying this is a common practice?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Deck.
I don't want to get too far in the weeds here on the policies and stuff, but I noticed last summer, one time at one of the county parks, there were things that were attached to the trees in the park. And I don't think that's a very good practice, to put wash lines and flags and different, things screwed to the trees, because if we ever have to remove those trees because they die or whatever, now you've got hardware in that tree, and it's hard on equipment, and it could, harm the tree.
So we could add that, that nothing can be attached from, I don't know how you put it in the camping. We could say that, I don't know how you say it, 'cause if you want a clothesline between two trees and hanging the towels out there.
But there shouldn't be any attachments on those trees. Somebody wants to tie a rope around the tree, that wouldn't be a
Okay.
problem, but putting screws
Screws
and
and-
nails and whatever, lag bolts, that's,
Putting up a dish antenna.
yeah.
I mean,
Nothing physically can be, under camping, under number 6, we could just maybe add no physical hardware can be attached to stuff outside your campsite.
We have a motion on,
We have a motion and a second.
who made the motion?
Commissioner Nissen, second by Commissioner Anderson. Okay, any other questions or comments, or if not? Commissioner Deck.
Just as a point of order, if we amend that after we made the motion, don't we have to either do a friendly amendment, or do we?
Yes.
What you could do, you could vote on this one, and
Yes.
you could make a motion to add one more thing,
Or friendly amendment, too.
or a friendly amendment.
I don't know.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Deck.
let me recommend that we, if I may, that we vote on this one while Larry drafts the wordage for the amendment, and then we'll
All right.
treat that separately.
And we'll proceed. Any other questions or comments? If not, I'll call for the vote. The vote deals with policies concerning dogs as well as subletting. And I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Now, Commissioner Endek. Or Administrator Kleinow.
If I understand right, we'd like to add under camping, number 6, no hardware may be attached to county property and/or trees.
Okay. Commissioner Endek.
And anything that is, if it's a roper, has to be removed at the time of, at the end of the.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And is there a second to that?
I'll second.
A second by Commissioner Gardner. Any questions or comments? It's pretty clear? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. All right. Thank you. And next, we're going to be talking about the fees for the parks and the changes in the fees.
So, Mr. Chair, last year, we didn't adjust the fees at all in our park fees. Our county parks were built in the 80s, or late 70s, 80s. When the campgrounds were designed and built, they were built for small pop-up type campers and tents. You get into the 21st century and you got mobile houses on wheels that are parking in our campsites. with multiple air conditioners, microwaves, TVs, electrical appliances. And our sites weren't designed for that, not only physically, but with the electrical lines, our water and sewer. And so we're adjusting. We're in the process of having to put in more extensive power lines. What we have happening on some of our county parks is that if you have a string of campers, and if you're up front, close to the source, you got good electricity. And if you're at the bottom or at the end, your electricity is not very good. And when you turn your air conditioners on, and I say air conditioners, you can either blow your stuff out or burn them out, and people are concerned about that. And so we're in the process of upgrading our electrical, but it's expensive to upgrade our electrical, to add lines, whether it be Candy Power or Meeker Power Co-op, putting lines in to add new transformers, and then you have electricians coming in and redoing the stuff. For example, Diamond Lake, we got an estimate, and we're probably going to be close to between 160 and 180,000 just to upgrade the electrical. We have to upgrade the electrical on Big Candy West, and we have a meter on Big Candy East that we have to redo. At the park manager meeting, we heard that there's also concerns with electrical on games. We have to work on it, find out exactly what that is. But so every park is saying with these big camping systems that we have to do something. Also, what we're running into on Diamond and Green Lake is the sewer rates changed. We charge more for our sewer rates, and so the county, and so we pay those fees as well. Also, electricity across all county parks, just electricity itself. If you look at your electrical bills and you see how your electrical bill is coming, those are more expensive. And so we got a lot of costs that are coming in. Over the last 10 years, the county has subsidized the county parks by almost $1 million. It's about $100,000 a year. You ask, well, how can that be? Well, if you do a parking lot, remodel, put a parking lot down, I'll use games like, for example, that's around $300,000 for a parking lot. Put that parking lot in and redesign that and get that fixed up. Then if you look at what we put in Diamond Lake, we did the entrance, took the road out of there. We're talking another, what the park here was, that doesn't count what Public Works put into it, probably another 400 some thousand. We do the store, we do the decks on the stores and restaurants. You do the bathhouse on Big Candy West. We got a big bathhouse planned on Big Candy East that we will pay 50% of. And we have buildings on Green Lake that we have to remove and replace because they're just outdated and getting in bad shape. So if you just took what we made on revenues, you'd make money. But if you have to take what you spend on all those other projects I just got done telling you about, it takes years when we take our share of what we get for camping. We take about 60% and the managers take about 48%. That's how we break it out. Also, in those fees that you see, covers our electricity, water, also, and Convention and Visitors Bureau if they're under 30 days. So when we were talking at the park manager meeting, we were talking about what can we do to increase the revenue? What should we do? One of the conversations that came up is that the state park charges around $35 per day. And should we not be competitive or at least be in that line? And so the discussion came up. Another discussion came up was about supply and demand. When we open up our campsites for reservations, on the day they're opened up, we have people waiting. to get on. Matter of fact, they're not supposed to register until the time starts at 10 o'clock. Many try to jump on before. Big Candy Park West, we generally have almost all of our campsites filled within the first 4 hours. That's 90 campsites filled in 4 hours. So the question was brought up at the meeting, well, if the demand is so high and people can't get into the county parks that have been trying to get into the county parks and can't use the county parks, shouldn't we look at maybe our rates are too low? So we started having that discussion. And so the discussion then came about what would be a fair price? How do we make sure that we are still affordable for families that can camp, but also have people that are using it as their lake home year after year after year after year to pay their fair share? Also, how do we make sure that we have this as a user fee that's covering the cost so the local taxpayers of Canada County aren't stuck with this burden? It's a philosophical challenge because I understand from a camper standpoint. You all of a sudden you go from a leap instead of creep, and we've been very careful about doing that. We never want to do a big leap. We have fought that and resisted that for a long time. But at some point, with these costs, you have to do something because you can't get so far behind. So we came up with a couple options that I'm presenting, and so you can either go with one or two options, or I can come up with another option. I do have another, for full disclosure, I do have another option you could look at. But when we were putting it together in our discussion, we thought the option 1 or 2 was in the ballpark. You have a choice to either say, you can reject that and ask for another option. You can reject it and have me come back at another board meeting. So I'm open. Yes.
Commissioner Undeck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is there a minimum number of days in a seasonal rate? Is it like 90 days? Is
So-
it 50 days?
Anything over 30 days is a seasonal rate.
Right, but do they pay for 100 days a year, or they pay for whenever they leave?
When they book, they book how many days they're gonna stay at that campsite. So seasonal is 30 days. You could go 45 days, you could go 60 days, you can go 90 days, or you could go 100 days. So what we find is if those that only want to stay 30 days, or 29 days, they may book an extra 2 days so they don't have to pay the tax. You know?
Local or the lodging tax?
Lodging tax.
Oh, sure.
So does that answer your question?
It kind of does, but
Most of them, Commissioner, most of people, when they do a seasonal, most of them are between 90 and 100 days, most of them.
So if I may,
Yeah, please proceed.
it feels to me like the seasonal, the 30-plus days is almost more advantageous than the 0 to 29 days, and why not charge the same rate for the 30-plus days as we do for the 0 to 29?
And that's a good question. And, you know, the worst answer, and I hate this answer, why do you do it this way? Because that's how I always done it. I hate that answer. But the reality is, there's always been a discount for seasonal rates.
Yeah.
We used to have 3 rates.
Oh.
And a few years ago, we went to 0 to 29 and then 30 plus.
But it varies quite a bit from, excuse me, Commissioner Undeck, please proceed.
Oh, I was going to say, did you look at an option that you and the committee look at an option where you had staged? So if you say 0 to 50 days and then 50 to 120 days.
We did not.
staged.
We did not, but there was discussion, should, you know, if you really want to get conflict, we try to keep a system that's easy to use, you know, and follow. But we did talk about you could have premium dates, June 15th to July 15th or July 30th. Where if you book on during those times, your rates are higher. Again, I want to keep it somewhat simple and not have to, if it costs us more for administrative and trying to figure out how to do that, but we have talked about that.
Commissioner Kleindall, I'd really like to commend the committee and the commissioners on the committee as well, and yourself and the rest of the members of that committee and the park managers. You've had to put a lot of time in and thought into this whole process. And because there is so many different ways to look at it. And what makes sense to one person can make different sense to somebody else. I did like Commissioner Emdeck's comment, though, that let's make it even simpler and make it just one fee for 29 days or 30-plus days. But again, I'm not in that committee, and you probably worked through all this. And I had a couple other questions along I'm added for the committee, too. We all received copies of somebody concerned that this is a 57 to 76% increase rate for some people and can cause a hardship. And I just was wondering,
But my question would be,
Yeah.
One comment, two comments, I understand that. So you have to look at those also. And also, if they're looking at for themselves, we are embodied to look at all the citizens of Canada County, who's paying for what.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yeah, my question is this, and I don't want to put you on the spot or whatever, but I just want an answer. Option 1 and option 2, they are an increase. Will this get it closer to breaking even? I don't necessarily want the parks to make money, because it is for people's enjoyment. But for people that don't use the parks, they maybe would have a hard time subsidizing the parks for people to have fun on a park. Will this get better or closer?
So any increase that you do is going to get better. As I said, from 2011, from 2011 to 2020, the parks have lost $994,000. Okay? So I understand, I don't want to price us out of the market either. But at the same time, we can go with option 1. We can reject option 1 and option 2, and I can come up with provide an option 3, where it's more in line with a $5 to $7 increase. It's when we did that county park plan, we did it a couple years ago. When we had open houses and stuff, there's a lot of wants that people want.
Commissioner Emdeck, please first.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to make a recommendation, but I have a question first before I go on to that regarding the camper cabins. How has the usage been? How has the occupancy been on the camper cabins? And I see we don't have that many at this point, but I see that they were not considered for adjustment.
Mr. Chair, they have not. We were not considered adjustment. This will be our second year with them. Well, we have 4 camper cabins right now. We need to build a couple more yet this winter to finish out the grant for Games Lake, and of course, as you know, for Big Candy East, we put some in for the state grant. The usage of them during the season are excellent. I heard very positive comments at all. If I was going to adjust anything or do something better on the camper cabins, would that be spend some money on advertising during non-seasonal times. Like right now, we should be promoting them probably more. And I haven't taken any money to promote the non-seasonal time.
Commissioner Emdeck, and then Commissioner Anderson, and then Commissioner Gardner.
Well, I would like to make a motion to adopt option 1 with a recommendation that next year, or within a couple of years, we equalize the daily rates with doesn't have to be in the motion, I'm just asking the committee to put that in their notes for following year, that we equalize the daily or the over 29 and the under 29 days, the rates.
So, okay.
Everything would be the same.
Oh, we are.
We're not doing that right now. I'm just saying that, bring that back to committee for future consideration within a year or so. And also, so rather than being here looking at leap or creep every few years, we get at a rate and we do an annual inflation adjustment. Again, not as part of this motion, but as a recommendation.
If you look at the option one that you made a motion on, we are getting closer to
Right.
the, if you look at that, I would like to point, we are getting closer to what the daily rate is.
We are. Those under 29 pay 3% more than that daily rate, which on $30 isn't a big deal, but, so there's that as well.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay. We have, on the table, we have a motion to accept option one. Is there a second to that motion?
I will second that motion.
A second to the motion by Commissioner Gardner. Now I'd like to call on Commissioner Anderson.
Might have been answered, I think, so.
Is it okay? And Commissioner Nissen, you had a comment?
No, I did.
Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to ask Commissioner Imdeck, I think what I'm understanding you to say in requesting that the committee look at this in the future. For example, at Games Lake, I know that there are a few limited seasonals, 30 days or more, but that for the most part out there, it's for daily, weekly
And we want to
weekly
keep it that
camping,
way.
and it's only one fee. Is that what I'm hearing you say that you want to have considered across all the county parks moving forward?
Yeah,
Is the
whatever
one fee.
What, Mr. Chair?
Yes, please proceed.
What
Commissioner Indeck.
what I'm saying, I'm not saying all parks are created equal, but what I am saying is that we should have the same rate for daily or for 0 to 29 days as we have for 30-plus days.
At each respective park?
Correct.
But that is not part of this
It's
motion.
not part of the motion, it's
So-
just,
Yep, understood. I just wanted clarification on, on that point.
Okay, any-
May I continue?
Yes, you may.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. I've had several folks contact me about this, and surprisingly, they understand the need to raise revenues to keep pace with the improvements that we're doing at these parks. Certainly, they're being asked for. I'm looking at the daily rates, and those are not nearly to the same level as what we're talking about with the with the seasonal rates. If you look at somebody renting from Memorial Day to Labor Day, that's about 98 days. It does amount to, in some cases, 50% or more increase. But I will say that, for example, I looked at a number of different campgrounds in the region, and maybe the one that is most comparable to our county parks in general is the private campground just outside of Spicer. And their rates are, seasonal rates are certainly higher than what we've been charging. I would submit that we have not kept pace on the seasonal rates for quite some time. And frankly, I would put up virtually any of our campgrounds against anyone else's in the area. And this is just catching up with the times, and to Mr. Kleindel's point, that campers have changed. It's more than the system can bear unless we raise the rates enough to be able to cover those additional costs. And if we don't do that, then it's going to be difficult for people to be able to enjoy our parks in the future.
We definitely have fabulous campgrounds to offer the public. Commissioner Anderson.
Yeah, I just have one comment. I've gotten complaints about it going up, and I understand that. But then I've also gotten a lot of complaints from people that would like to come there and get a site, and they're not able to do it because it fills up so quickly. And, it's too bad that it does have to go up, but at the same time, there is a high demand, I think, for people to go camping. And, maybe instead of it filling up within the first 4 hours or whatever, maybe it takes a week to fill up if we do charge a little more, but it will fill up. I'm pretty certain of that.
Yeah, like I said, the other thing, the option we could do is on some of the parks that have a lot of seasonal, is we could eliminate seasonals and cut that number down. I mean, for future boards or coming, that's things they could look at.
And/or set aside some campsites that would be.
That's what I mean.
Yes.
Yep.
And I'm sure the committee will be exploring that, but that's been suggested by other people as well. Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Nissen?
I just, from Big Candy West going from $20 to $30, that is quite a jump. But that's the leap instead of creep thing, which we should have been looking at a few years ago. And because we had that same thing happen at the golf course a number of years ago. All of a sudden, because of costs and everything, we had to raise the rates, and we lost some members. But it's something that's inevitable, and like you bring up, and he mentioned as well, the campers that they pull in with now with 3 air conditioners and all the comforts of home, we have to keep up with that. It's just simple. We can't run extension cords from the manager's house or allow,
Generators?
generators and every, that would, and then the people who complain it's too noisy. So I think we have to take some action. I don't know if, if we want to make this whole leap at one time or not, but it's got to happen at some point.
I would just like to point out there's some common ground here with the optional sales tax, is that the county, these improvements would fall on our property taxes if we don't do something about it. And this is a user fee. And we have to do something. Anybody else? Otherwise, I'm going to call the question. Okay, I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor, say aye of option 1. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. I'd like to thank the committee. I know this is a tough decision for all the commissioners to make, and this big leap. And we did talk about some options, and the committee has got a big challenge ahead yet. So thank you. Now I would like to move on to the next agenda item, and I would like to call on Mr. Smith, Sanitary Sewer Water District for Glacier Lakes. Good morning.
Good morning.
You got several
I do have a few
items for
items
us.
for us.
And starting out with, was it Resolution 2021-44?
Yeah, so good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. The first thing I want to talk about is resolution number 2021-44. This is, we do this every year with our delinquent accounts. And for this resolution, there are 2 Green Lake accounts that have outstanding fees. Parcel number is 27-022-0410 for a total of $258.10. The second parcel is 27-023-0210 for a total of $286.96. Letters have been sent out to these properties throughout the year, along with their monthly billing statements. October 20th, 2021, a letter was sent out to each one of the delinquent accounts, letting them know that the Glacial Lakes Commission would be reviewing them with possible recommendation to the county board requesting an assessment recovery. October 25th, that's when we had the Glacial Lakes Commission meeting. They reviewed the status of the delinquent accounts and approved forwarding them to the county board today. And then on November 10th, another letter was sent out letting them know about this meeting today, and that a final decision would be made regarding the possible assessment of their delinquent account balance. So I guess my recommendation today would be adopt resolution 2021-44 to recover the outstanding delinquent account balances.
Okay, Commissioners, your wish.
Oh,
Commissioner Nissen.
I'll move on that.
Motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second
A
that.
second by Commissioner Anderson. Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chair.
Please proceed.
I just want to clarify. So those delinquent amounts will be attached to their property tax statement?
Correct, yes.
Good point. Thank you. Okay, any other discussion or comments? If not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Okay, please continue.
The second item is resolution number 2021-45. This is for a Tri-Lakes area. On this, there's 3 parcels. Parcel number 27-774-0031 for a total of $1,477.68. Parcel number 27-980-6760 for a total of $268.57. And parcel number 27-980-5615 for a total of $493.62. Again, the same goes with the previous resolution. Multiple letters have been sent. It's been brought before the Glacial Lakes Commission, and they forwarded it on to this county board. So I would also have the same recommendation to adopt resolution 2021-45 to recover the outstanding delinquent account balance via property assessment.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yeah, I just have a question. How come there's a big variation in late fees?
Yes.
Same question.
So that, because there is monies out there from the state for late fees and that, or for utility bills, and that cannot go towards late fees. So that's like one of them on that last page. That's why that is so much higher than.
Yeah.
That name has been on
Commissioner Anderson, yes.
Yeah, and-
multiple years, and I don't know, maybe pull the meter.
Yeah, there's a few of
Yeah.
these that are year
Yes.
after year after year, which,
Yeah, it looks like the late fees is more than the original fee. You know,
correct.
or it is more.
So doesn't that go on a property, or isn't he not paying his property tax either? How come the late fee keeps going up if he's being assessed that on his property?
Every year it does get collected through the property tax assessment. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It all depends on usage too, and all that, but.
Commissioners, I'll entertain a motion if there is one.
I'd move on resolution 2021-45.
A motion by Commissioner Gardner for resolution 45. Do I have a second?
I'll second
A
that.
second by Commissioner Anderson. Any further discussion or comments? If not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously.
All right, the last item that I'm bringing forward today is the City of Spicer Water Tower Lease Agreement for their radio antenna. On October 25th, at the Glacial Lakes Commission, they approved forwarding this agreement to the county commissioners. This agreement is for 5 years. It allows the City of Spicer to place their radio and transmission antennas for their that's how they read their water meters. They will be keeping that on the water tower that's located in Spicer. There is no charge for this space because of 2 reasons. One, the City of Spicer is part of the system, and also the district's water tower is on the City of Spicer. This agreement is essentially a continuation of the previous agreement that started in 2016. So it'd be my recommendation today to have the chair and auditor and attorney sign on behalf of the county entering into another 5-year agreement with the city.
So move, Mr. Chair.
A motion by Commissioner Emdek
Seconded.
and a second by Commissioner Nissen. Any further discussion or comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously.
I'll get the signatures at the end.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And now I'd like to call on Kennewick County Auditor Treasurer, Mr. Thompson.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mark. This past week, 2 weeks ago, we actually received notification from the DNR regarding 2 grant agreements. One for the Glacial Lakes Trail snowmobile trail. and the other was for the Baroque Nordic Ski Trail. And the Glacial Lakes Trail grant was, that we've been awarded, was $57,764.31. Baroque Nordic Ski Trail grant, $5,500. And maybe what we can do is take one at a time.
Yes, that'd be a good idea.
Okay, so the Glacial Lakes Trail, again, DNR has notified us that we've been awarded $57,764.31. And that's my ask for a motion from the board to accept the grant.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Or a motion by Commissioner Emdek,
Second.
second by Commissioner Gardner. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously.
Again, the second grant agreement that DNR has awarded the county is the Baroque Nordic Ski Trail. That grant is for $5,500. Again, the ask is to accept the grant.
I will make that motion.
A motion by Commissioner Nissen
I'll second
and
it.
a second by Commissioner Anderson. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Thank you.
You bet. Next on the agenda is a request for a public hearing for an off-sale liquor license for Cabin LLC doing business as Barney's Liquor Store. If you recall, this was brought up to the board last spring. I believe it was February in that time. The reason we have to go through this process again is because of a change of ownership. They're still going by the DBA, the business name is Barney's, but there has been a change in ownership. The legal name is being changed. So my request is that we hold a public hearing at 10 o'clock a.m. on December 2nd, 2021, that board meeting. Again, to consider awarding an off-sale liquor license to Cabin LLC DBA as Barney's Liquor Store. And this is the one by Eagle Lake again. Again, we went through it this spring, but we have to go through the process again because of change in ownership.
Okay, Commissioner Gardner, did you?
I will move to set the public hearing for December 2nd.
We have a motion to set the public hearing. Do we have a second on that motion?
I'll second
A
it.
second by Commissioner Emdek. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. And now I'd like to call on Administrator Kleindahl. Is there any administrative updates?
Let's go through the next 2 weeks. We got some new changes on it.
Just a few updates to keep you in the loop. As you know, the federal OSHA passed a resolution stating that employers with over 100 employees would have to adhere to COVID-19 restrictions. There since has been a federal adjudication or stay on this until they can hear this further. The state of Minnesota is still working on their plan 30 days after the federal OSHA passed their plan. They sent it to Minnesota. Minnesota would be working on it. So right now, I just want to let you know, we're on a wait and see. We don't know what the outcome or what is going to take place. It was supposed to take effect on January 4th. And so we don't know, will the timelines be pushed back? I would think just because of the federal stay that will be pushed back. I do believe that we'll be getting more information from AMC. You may be receiving information, so we'll have to make sure we have communication where this is at. But as you know, this is not something we have a choice over. It's not like we get to pick and choose what rules or laws we follow. If it gets passed, we will do what we have to do. So that will have a major impact on how we do things and what process we will have to do. Any questions about that or what you've read? I do have the press release from the OSHA And I'm sure you've seen it in the national news and local news.
Mr. Kleindl, I have no question at all, except I do want to make a statement that it is unfortunate we have to be looking at this, and I really think it's so important, mandate or no mandate, that people check with their doctor, make sure they're okay with that, but they do get vaccinated. And I think it's really important, because between now and whatever happens, as we can read in the paper and hear in the news, every day, people are being hospitalized, the hospitals are getting full, and we need vaccination is the answer, and that is my opinion. Thank you. Any other comments from anybody at this point?
I had something else I lost my train
I'm
of thought.
sorry, I
It's okay.
distracted you, and I kind of got off the subject, but it is the subject.
It is.
We need people vaccinated.
I do want to remind everybody that the county board meeting, next county board meeting has been moved to December 2nd. I did send out notices to the media, and we did give our official notice of that. We also got truth and taxation that evening at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, I was going to recommend,
Please
I was
proceed.
going to recommend that we, from today, look, there's a couple of things that, make sure that we're all on the same page. I don't want to miss a meeting. Don't we also have a DAC meeting? Candy Works DAC, or is that,
We don't have a Candy Works DAC anymore.
oh, so that's something that just repeated itself on my calendar. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, remember they dissolved.
Right, and I didn't know if we were still cleaning up part of
No,
that.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Nope.
So then, that one's off my calendar, and then on that Tuesday, which you've already talked about, or that Thursday, we have, I've already missed it. I'm in the wrong month, that's why. Thursday is the county board meeting, truth and taxation, and then Sunday through Wednesday is the annual, AMC annual meeting.
Correct. Okay.
Prime West Health has got a meeting that same day, so.
Jim, oh, that's right, you said that. You have to miss that. Also, couple of things I want you to just put on your radar that I'll be bringing to future board meetings. Back this summer, I talked about doing a resolution to get rid of board per diems for the commissioners and add in that per diem to the salary. I'll be bringing that to the board at either the next meeting or the following meeting, so we can have that discussion. Basically, instead of tracking and doing all the administrative costs for the per diem, we'll just add what the 5-year average was into the salary. Hopefully that will clean that up. Also, one of the things that I will also be talking about in future meetings is restructuring the Health and Human Services and the management team, and how do we go about doing that? What is the process? At our budget meeting, we talked about, do we need an assistant director, or do we need, or how should we do that? We can't keep kicking the can down the road, and so I just want you to know that I want to keep that on the radar. We talked about it in August at our budget meeting, but we'll have to look at that structure as well. So that's all I have, Mr. Chair. Any questions for me?
All right, no questions? Everybody? Well, thank you very much, Mr. Kleindl. Commissioners, any appointments you have or anything on your calendars that you wish to add at this time? If not, I'll just ask you now for updates on your committee reports since our last meeting. I'd like to start with Commissioner Emdek.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have, other than the fairly routine meetings that a lot of us have every month, like Planning Commission and AIS, those kind of things. On November 3rd, I attended the Minnesota Transportation Alliance meeting, and then on November 9th, of note, there's a Community Health Board, Renville County Ojai Community Health Board. We went through the formalization of annulling the Citizen Advisory Board for the Community Health Board. As a reminder, it was felt that many of the same people served on both boards, and the topics were redundant, and so it was fairly unanimous that they annul the Citizen Advisory Board, and so we took formal action last Tuesday.
Okay. Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, I basically just had one. That was the park managers' fall meeting, and that was on November 2nd. It was after our regular board meeting, and we basically just discussed what we discussed today about our park policy and the rates that we charge for campsites.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Nissen?
Well, I had several meetings, and one of them was the park meeting, which we were beaten to death today.
Yes.
Hawk Creek, the Hawk Creek meeting and the One Watershed, One Plan meeting are held on the same day at the, over here at the Rescue Squad building, and it was fairly routine. The One Watershed Plan is moving ahead. I think the main thing we did at this last meeting was review and approve the joint powers agreement for bylaws and those kinds of things. The attorney from Ridke Noonan was there to guide us through that. Prime West, again, the procurement keeps coming up. He seems less and less confident all the time. So it's something kind of on the edge of our seats as to whether that's going to go through. They seem to have a lack of understanding of what the law says regarding county-based purchasing at the Department of Health. And so hopefully we'll be able to work through that, but it's Mr. Jim Presbilla, he's kind of concerned, so. Canyon County Historical Society met, and we're building or enlarging our research room. And we have a donor that provided the funds, so that'll improve our facility down there very nicely. And we have, I hope they do a better job on that roof than whoever did our roof before, because we had another water leak in the conference room there, or the one we rent out occasionally. Dover Township had a meeting downstairs here. Talked about two things: broadband, which was very lightly attended, surprisingly. Most people, somewhere, just like I've always said, they don't know what they don't know. But there was several others that spoke very highly of the importance of broadband, but the other one was the LRIP money, which they had an engineer come and had all kinds of ideas, and it sounds like they don't exactly know where they're going with that yet. I don't know if, but they talked about the bridge over the Hawk Creek and maybe closing that, because, and that people spoke against that, but I brought up the fact that the Glacial Ridge Scenic Byway goes over that bridge, and I don't, if I remember right, and is MnDOT take care of those things? Because we weren't going to somebody wanted to put electric sign up in Starbuck, and they wouldn't allow it because it was on the byway. Well, now they're going to close that road if they do that, and I just spoke out against it. But then I remembered that when they redid 37 and 90 intersection, that's supposed to bring people from one side of the road to connecting the scenic byway, so there's an issue there, which signage may have to be creative in order to get people from one end of from 37th over to 90 to continue on. Glacial Ridge Scenic Byway met yesterday up at the Runestone community area. It's not the Runestone Museum in Alexandria, it's the farm place that the Runestone was actually found. They have a nice little facility up there, and so we met up there, and pretty routine. We talked about, we're going to redo our comprehensive plan, so we had someone review what we should be looking at there. And Prairie Woods met last night. Nothing really, I can't remember anything that was
They continue
earth-shattering.
to search, they've gotten a few applications.
Yeah,
for
the
management.
executive director, two applications.
We're in the middle of that process.
Yeah, and so that's my report.
Okay, Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Regarding the Community Health Board, the chairmanship of that board rotates every year between a representative of the Renville Board and the Candiota County Board, and I just want to commend Commissioner Imdeck for rather stealthily getting his nomination of me in before I could nominate him. Well played, Commissioner.
You're welcome.
Thanks. The headline in the paper this morning, Minnesota has the highest rate of COVID transmission. And the other issue is that they're finding that the efficacy of the original vaccines, even if you've had 2 doses, is waning already. So it's more important than ever to get that booster and also to please practice social distancing, masking. I know it's a hateful thing to have to do, but it's for the good of all of us. And I just please beg people to take this seriously again. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gardner. Last, I had 2 meetings that I want to just share with you. We had the PAC4 annual meeting with the elected officials, and it was in Olivia. And it was a very good meeting and talked about plans and goals for next year. And I won't go into detail at this time, but a very good meeting we had. And then on last Friday, I had the 18 County Mental Health Consortium annual meeting, and that was in Redwood Falls. And you all might recall that was the day that we had our first real kind of snow and icy roads. And with 18 counties, getting a quorum was going to be a challenge. So I did make it there. Unfortunately, we did not have a quorum. We did Zoom the meeting, but because of the change in rules and regulations, items would have to be dealt with at another meeting officially to make them valid. So, but we did have a meeting and did have some good discussions, so thank you. And I had several other meetings, including having to sign a lot of other documents that didn't get signed or needed to be signed. So I am going to adjourn the meeting unless there's a comment.
I have a
Mr.
question.
Anderson.
Did you fill your volunteers for the tourism thing?
I will find out more as soon as I leave here and go to the CVB meeting.
might
That's a
wanna-
lot of the same folks.
Do they cover that hotel cost and stuff, or?
I don't know the answer to that. I can ask.
I may be interested if there's space available.
Outstanding.
Okay.
I'll tell them you volunteered for all 4 shows.
My wife says I can't go, so then I probably won't.
Well, I may do it with you too. I hereby close the Candiota County Board of Commissioners meeting. Thank you, everybody.